There's something living inside your mind right now that's more powerful than your conscious will. And Carl Jung, one of the most famous psychologists, spent his entire career studying how it controls human behavior, without you even knowing it. What he discovered challenges everything you think you know about yourself and why you do the things you do. In just a moment, I'm going to show you how to identify this psychological force and why recognizing it is the difference between living as a slave to unconscious patterns and becoming the master of your own destiny. But first, you need to prepare yourself for what you're about to learn. You think you're in control of your decisions, but there's something inside your mind right now making choices for you, and you don't even know it's happening. Every morning, you wake up believing you're the captain of your own ship, making rational decisions based on logic and careful consideration. Wrong. Your unconscious mind operates like a puppet master, pulling strings you can't even see, controlling your reactions, your relationships, and your career moves, without asking for your permission. This invisible force doesn't just influence you, it owns you. Every time you ignore its existence, it grows stronger, feeding off your denial and becoming more powerful in the darkness of your psychological blind spots. Think about the last time you completely lost your temper over something small, or felt inexplicably drawn to someone who was obviously bad for you. That wasn't a random moment of weakness. That was your unconscious mind taking control. You see this psychological sabotage everywhere. Once you know what to look for, there's the guy who gets close to real intimacy, then suddenly picks fights and destroys every good relationship he's ever had. The ambitious woman who works tirelessly toward her goals, then chokes at the crucial moment, sabotaging herself right before breakthrough success. These aren't character flaws. These are unconscious programs running in the background. Jung spent decades studying how the human mind stores every rejected emotion, every suppressed impulse, every trait you've decided is unacceptable about yourself. When you were a child and learned that anger made your parents withdraw, you didn't just stop expressing anger, you banished it to a psychological prison. When society taught you that certain desires were shameful, you didn't eliminate those desires. You buried them alive. Every aspect of your personality that you've labeled as bad, wrong, or unacceptable gets stuffed into this psychological dungeon where it doesn't disappear. It festers. This creates an internal war where you're literally fighting yourself without realizing it. Your conscious goals battle against your unconscious programming, and guess which one usually wins? Most people live their entire lives as slaves to this hidden force, repeating the same destructive cycles, wondering why they can't break free from patterns that seem to have a life of their own. The truth is, this enemy has a name, and once you identify it, you can begin the process of taking back control. Jung called it the shadow, the collection of everything you've rejected about yourself that now operates from the darkness, controlling your behavior. Your shadow contains all the anger you never expressed, all the selfishness you denied, all the darkness you pretended didn't exist. It's not gone. It's running the show from behind the scenes. But understanding what the shadow is only the beginning. The real question is how it's been sabotaging your life in ways you never imagined. Every time you've failed at something important, every relationship that fell apart, every opportunity you missed, there's a good chance your shadow was behind it, pulling the trigger. You think these moments of self-destruction are random, but they're not random at all. Your shadow operates like a psychological saboteur, using your own suppressed traits against you at the worst possible moments, when success is within reach, when love is possible, when breakthrough is imminent. Here's what makes this so insidious. The more you try to be perfect, the more you try to only show your good side, the more powerful and destructive your shadow becomes. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push it down, the more violently it explodes to the surface. When you ignore your anger, it doesn't disappear. It transforms into passive-aggressive behavior that poisons your relationships. When you deny your selfish impulses, they don't vanish. They turn into deep resentment that eats you alive from the inside. When you refuse to acknowledge your dark thoughts, they gain power over you. controlling you from below the surface of your awareness. Look at your biggest triggers, the people who make your blood boil, the behaviors that instantly set you off. That's your shadow talking. Shadow projection means you hate in others what you refuse to see in yourself. The guy who can't stand arrogant people is usually drowning in his own unacknowledged arrogance. The woman who despises needy behavior is often starving for attention herself. Your biggest triggers reveal your deepest denials. But here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Your shadow doesn't just contain negative traits, it also holds positive qualities you've rejected because they didn't fit your self-image. Maybe you suppressed your natural confidence because someone told you it was arrogance. Maybe you buried your creative fire because your family valued conformity over expression. Maybe you denied your leadership abilities because you learned nice people don't take charge. This creates a double prison, where you're cut off from both your full power and your authentic self. You're not just avoiding your darkness, you're also rejecting your light. Jung put it perfectly when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Every unexplained failure, every mysterious self-sabotage, every pattern you can't break, that's your shadow running the show. Confronting your shadow isn't about becoming a better person. It's about becoming a complete person, with access to your full psychological arsenal. Shadow integration is the difference between being controlled by your unconscious patterns and having conscious access to every part of your personality. When you integrate your shadow, you're not eliminating the darkness. You're consciously choosing when and how to use every aspect of yourself. But shadow work is just the beginning. There's an even deeper level of psychological programming that shapes how you see reality itself. There's a reason why some men seem to have an almost supernatural level of self-control and psychological power. They've completed a process that most people never even start, while everyone else stumbles through life, controlled by unconscious reactions. These psychological masters have undergone what Jung called individuation, the journey from being a collection of random impulses to becoming a psychologically integrated powerhouse who consciously chooses every response. Here's what triggers this transformation: crisis. Those moments when your current identity breaks down and forces you to confront everything you've been avoiding. When your marriage falls apart, when you lose the job that defined you, when the belief system you built your life on crumbles. That's not destruction, that's invitation. Most people run from these moments, but they're actually doorways to psychological completion. Individuation means integrating not just your shadow, but the deeper archetypal patterns that have been running your life without your knowledge. Think of archetypes as psychological software programs installed in every human mind, universal patterns like the hero, the warrior, the king, that influence your behavior whether you're conscious of them or not. The collective unconscious contains these ancestral blueprints that shape how you see yourself and move through the world. Most people are possessed by these archetypes, rather than consciously choosing which aspects to embody and when. You meet guys who are stuck in the eternal adolescent archetype, avoiding responsibility their whole lives. Others get trapped in the warrior mode, turning every interaction into a battle. Some become consumed by the victim archetype, seeing persecution everywhere. They're not choosing these patterns, they're being controlled by them. Your dreams are your unconscious mind's way of showing you exactly what needs to be integrated, providing a roadmap for psychological completion. Dreams speak in the language of symbols, communicating through archetypal images that reveal which parts of your psyche need attention. When you ignore these nightly messages, you drift further from your authentic self, living someone else's program instead of your own. Jung understood, individuation isn't a one-time event, but an ongoing process of conscious choice over unconscious reaction. Every day, you face moments where you can either react from old patterns or respond from integrated wholeness. The guy who's completed this process doesn't eliminate his anger. He chooses when and how to use it. He doesn't suppress his ambition. He directs it, consciously. Becoming psychologically complete gives you access to the full spectrum of human experience without being controlled by any single aspect. You can be gentle when gentleness serves you, ruthless when ruthlessness is required, compassionate when compassion creates connection, strategic when strategy wins the game. You're not at the mercy of whatever mood or archetype happens to be running the show. This level of psychological mastery transforms you from someone who reacts to life into someone who consciously creates their reality. True freedom isn't about eliminating your dark side, it's about integrating it consciously, so it serves your goals instead of sabotaging them. The anger you've suppressed can become fuel for necessary confrontations. The selfishness you've denied can drive healthy boundaries. The darkness you've rejected contains the very power you need to succeed. Start your shadow work today by identifying your biggest triggers and asking what rejected part of yourself you're seeing in others. That person who disgusts you is showing you something you refuse to acknowledge about yourself. Psychological mastery is the ultimate competitive advantage in a world full of people controlled by their unconscious patterns. If this hits something deep, it's not a coincidence. There's a part of you that's ready to break the cycle and take back control. So don't just scroll away, hit like as a signal to yourself. Subscribe if you're ready to keep going deeper every week. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one shadow pattern you're done running from? And remember Jung's warning, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But now, you know better. Don't let fate run your life. Take the pen and write your own story.